Pan-African.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great song, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.
Well, good morning to you wherever you are. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji And Alhaji. We are live on Pan-African TV, and we are broadcasting from the studios of the television station. This morning, we are also live on another TV station, but in the Volta region. Volta 1 TV is speaking us live. We are live in the Greater Accra region on radio, Ahwoi 92.3 FM. We are live on Bewa Radio, 106.5 in Yendi. We are also live on Matambo Radio. We are live on Diamond FM. We are live on Global FM in Ho. We are also live on Shine FM in Akachi. On Facebook, we are very huge. On Facebook, Pan-African Television. Pan-African Television spelled out in full. We are also live on Adamfopa Media, and we are live on Radio Gold 905 FM. If you like listening to TuneIn Radio, you can search for Ahwoi 92.3 FM or search for Radio Gold 90.5 FM. You'll get to listen to us. Thank you for making time. My name is Sena Nombo, and like I said, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show this morning. Of course, this morning, we'll say it as it is, no matter who is involved in the end, we'll leave you better educated. Thanks for making time. Very, very importantly, if you are watching the show, you can share your thoughts with us. If you're watching through Facebook, just do that through the comment section. If you're listening, you can use the number that we are using, our WhatsApp and message line, text message line. Send us a text or any of the issues we are discussing, and then we'll share it with the rest of the world. Joining me this morning for today's discussion, Mr. Kwesi Pradjina, who is managing editor of the Insight newspaper, heavily missed on the show, has not been here for the past 2 weeks. We are joined by Honorable Inusa Fuseni. Honorable Inusa Fuseni is Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. And then we are joined by Jifa Tegan, who is a member of the NDC's communication team. And then we are expecting to be joined by the Executive Director of Dankwa Institute, Richard Ahiangba, on the show today. Thanks for making time. Well, this morning we are talking about issues relating to the voter registration, the registration of voters. The main exercise ended about 2 days ago. Today, we are starting the mop-up. Mop-up exercise is starting today. Already, the Electoral Commission is applauding itself for a very good work done. They said this is the best exercise ever done in the history of Ghana. The intent role is. We'll talk about that. And then we'll end with the celebration of Founders Day. Tuesday was Founders 'S Day. It's a day on which the UGCC was formed several years back. We are marking it now as Founders Day, Founders with 'S. So we'll be going back to that debate. Necessary? Well, we'll have that discussion. But all that shortly. When I come, I will start off the discussion with the overview of the voters registration with Honorable Inusa Fuseni. Stick and stay with us. We are back shortly after this break.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Late Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. Our personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, Listen, you really cannot miss the couch with me, Amma, but still, the only TV show with a hat.
Market Stories is all about our market. Issues such as sanitation, market structures, storage facility, pricing, bargaining, and everything else that goes on in the market. It's going to be very educative, entertaining, and interactive. We would visit our various markets with both sellers and buyers to know everything concerning our market. Join me. My name is Maud Ananate. I'm your market lady.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.
Welcome back from that break. Of course, we are live on Pan-African television. It's the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Let me, if you're just joining us, let me remind me of my guests once again. Mr. Kwesi Prajina is managing editor of the Inside newspapers, heavily missed. And then Honorable Inusa Fuseni is member of parliament for Tamale Central. Jefa Tega is a member of the NDC's communication team. Will be joined by Richard Ahiagba, who is executive director of the Dankwa Institute. We are starting the discussion with an overview of the voter registration exercise. We're a bit late today, so we're in a bit of a rush. Honorable Inusa Fuseni will start off that discussion for us. Honorable.
Well, thank you, Sena, for the opportunity to be here once again on a very important Saturday that is part of the mopping up exercise of the Electoral Commission. And let me extend my welcome to Jifa, the first time I'm meeting her on any program at all. And I'm happy that she's on a program like this and she's elected to be one of the communicators of the NDC. We need more women, more ladies to communicate for the NDC. And I wish you well. It's a difficult terrain, but I'm sure you're going to make it. My brother Kwesi Pratt, he's an institution. And anytime you are sitting by him, you feel comfortable. Kwesi Pratt, good morning. You see, when the Electoral Commission came out with the program to compile a new register for Ghana, they came to Parliament for a budget. We asked them many questions. It appeared to us that they could not answer the questions successfully. The NDC and the Interparty Resistance Against the New Register came together to oppose the compilation of the new register and stated grounds, stated reasons. I know what I'm going to say is after the fact, because the register has been compiled, or the compilation of the register is still in process. But events emanating from the compilation of the register has gone to vindicate what we had always said. We have said that the register was never bloated. We have said that, look, Ghana's register is a biometric register. Dead people don't vote because they don't have fingers. And so you don't talk of a bloated register when your mechanism for determining the leadership of a country is founded on a biometric register. We were at pains to stress that in some countries, they don't have an electoral register. You have a biometric identification card that indicates your nationality. And because voting is by nationality, by citizenship, immediately you slot your card in the voting machine and the machine reads you and satisfies itself that you are a citizen of that country, you are entitled to vote. And so you don't say that 10,000 people have been put on the register. No. All citizens of the country are entitled to vote. In fact, that was the idea behind Article 42 of the Constitution. Article 42 creates a right in every Ghanaian who is 18 years and of sound mind to vote in public elections and referenda. And so when the national identification exercise was being undertaken, we thought that, well, that could be a panacea for determining who a citizen of Ghana is. But again, there were a couple of missteps with the voter identification card. They had deliberately removed from the list of primary documents for identification the voter ID card. And I have said time and again that was when a clear perception, a clear manifestation of an intent of the MPP with the National Identification Authority and the Electoral Commission to rob the people of Ghana of their franchise and their ability to determine the leadership of this country. Why? Because as a ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, at no point did the committee discuss the exclusion of the voter identification card from the register, because we had come to the conclusion that the voter identification card is a card which has its basis in the Constitution and precisely on Article 42. We did everything to convince the Electoral Commission, the MPP, and the good people of this country that a new register was absolutely not necessary, and that it was a useless waste of time and resources. We could not fathom how $100 million of our money could be used to compile a register. The MPP was supposed to tell us that there were about 1 million names or 2 million names on the register, that the register was bloated. That we said, demonstrate that. If you demonstrate that, after all, what was the decision in the Abu Ramadan's case? Abu Ramadan simply decided that the use of the National Health Insurance card, National Health Insurance card for the purposes of registration is wrongful because that card does not determine your citizenship. And I agreed with the decision. Even though the rationale for the decision, I disagree. But I agree with the decision that you can't use that card for the basis of establishing citizenship, because it's to entitle you to a service. And so anybody in Ghana who has that card is entitled to a service at the National Identification, at the National Health Insurance Authority sponsored hospitals. Now, why I disagree with the decision is that CI 72, CI 91 does not talk about citizenship. No, it talks of documents of identification. And that has a basis. And the basis is what? That anybody born in Ghana to parents or grandparents who are Ghanaians is by presumption a Ghanaian. So there is a presumption of citizenship in the Constitution and in the Citizenship Act. That was the basis for my disagreement with the court's decision. And I've said, and I will say it again, it was given per incurium. They had, by the decision, interpreted document of identification to mean document of citizenship. And that is not what the law intended to be. But well, we are going with it. Today, what is the total number of registered voters as at yesterday? Over 17 million people. What was the register? Well, at the time they said it was bloated. 16 or 15 million people. We had said that if the Electoral Commission was going to do a mop-up, limited registration of persons who are 10-18, they will add about 1 million or so people to the register. If you take the existing number of people who are on the register and the compilation as at yesterday, you are getting to almost the numbers that we are talking about. But we have spent a whole lot of money in achieving the same thing. We have said, look, and I was dumbfounded when I listened to educated people argue against our position. My brother, you have a phone. You have a chip in the phone. The chip contains your data. The data records historical activities you have been engaged in. If your phone fails to service you, to provide you with the service that you expect the phone to provide you, you buy an enhanced phone. Not so. So Electoral Commission could buy enhanced machines, identification machines. But you never throw data away. It is a sign of backwardness. You never throw data away. Data has a historical purpose. Today, we have been reduced to ground one. We have all new voters in Ghana. New by what they have done. The historical basis of where we started, how we got to 1996, how we got to 2000, how we got to 2004, 2006, 2008, and today is lost. It's lost. Because the Electoral Commission decided that they would throw the machines and the data away. But how can you, I mean, Mills has said it, you can't hope to develop if you continuously destroy what you have built. You have to build on what you have already put in place. That is development. We said, no, don't destroy it. We had also said that, look, all this exercise, these shenanigans of the MPP and the Electoral Commission and the NIA was designed to suppress voters. And that ethnicity was going to play a central role. It was not far-fetched. I am from the northern part of Ghana. In 1992, I was sufficiently grown to be a registered voter. I was a registered voter in 1992. And I still recall statements by leading members of the MPP who have said that northerners in Zongo communities and other cocoa growing areas of this country were foreigners. It has a basis. What is the basis? Let me tell you today. During the colonial era, northern part of Ghana was said to have nothing, to have no resources. The colonialists were not interested in northern part of Ghana. So northern part of Ghana was a protectorate. Northern part, according by the British colonial system, northern part of Ghana was a protectorate. They were protecting us against the Morondan slave raiders, Babatu and Samara what. That was the concept. But to pay for the protection, we had to give them our labor. So northerners were transported in vans to cocoa farms in the south and gold mines. The people in the southern part of Ghana did not know anything about the northern part of Ghana. And so when those people came and they said, who are these people? They speak the same language, they eat the same food, they behave similarly. They are what? Pepe. So all Pepes were thought to be aliens, people who were not part of them. This idea continues to be within the MPP today. As recently as 6 months ago, what did Oslo also say? That is the mentality. It's a mentality seeped deep. Ali Mama, may he rest in peace. When he was addressing a rally at Gamashi, the president today was a foreign minister. And when Ali Mama was communicating to the people in English, Nana Akuf-Addo, then foreign minister, told Ali Mama, speak your language to them. That is the mentality of the people that we have. So when we said there was going to be voter suppression, we knew that one, they will put in systems that will prevent people they perceived as foreigners. After all, when Bangomia said that foreigners were on the register, and MPP is want of doing that, they make accusations without proof. All true, they make accusations without proof. Even in parliamentary debate about the Airbus, it was accusations without proof. They are masters in tagging people as incompetent and corrupt. And immediately they say it and they populate it and they get people to imbibe it. They don't need to provide proof. When Bawumia said that he had identified persons who were Togolese and who were on the Ghana register, it was enough to say that there are Togolese on the register. What he failed, refused, or neglected to know is that but for British colonial imperialism, but for the imperialism, many of the people in Ghana who have relations in Togo have been divided simply because the colonialists in the Berlin of 1844 or something had decided to take a ruler to rule out. The British Prime Minister is reported to have said that if there are pieces of land available, he will not mind to share in some. We were dividing and sharing that. So the sharing was with that regard to who you are and where you come from. In fact, but for the referendum that got Togoland, southern Togoland, to be part of Togoland to be, that is the German Togoland, to be part of Ghana. Ghana, the border in Ghana divided Yendi. You see the couple of trees when you enter Yendi? Those were planted by Germans as their boundary. They were planted by Germans. The border was going to pass through. So our relations, we would have had relations in Togo who are not Ghanaians, but who are the Gombes. My brother always cites an example of a town in the Volta region where a house has a bathroom. Which bathroom is in Togo? Come to think about it. And Ghana passed a Dual Citizenship Act. When they are arguing, they forget that we passed a Dual Citizenship Act. The only time voting in two countries by one person becomes a crime is when Ghana did not pass the Dual Citizenship Act. So, like Gabi Ochidako said, he was born also in Britain. So he has a British nationality as well as a Ghanaian nationality. Nothing prevents him from voting in Britain, nothing prevents him from voting in Ghana. Nothing. But what do we see? Mbila. I'm saying that I'm lucky I'm a member of parliament. I'm sure by my marks, if I were not a member of parliament, they would have presumed me to be a Lagosian and prevented me from registering. Or a Kotokoli and prevented me from registering. Have they forgotten what Martin Luther said? That a person should not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Is there any act to find a man's construction on the face? Can you determine who a Ghanaian is by just looking at the face? Is there a technology that determines that? That is why when you are in the process of registering, the Electoral Commission provides challenge forms. That is why. Today, look at the number of people who have been brutalized for just electing to exercise their franchise, for electing to come under Article 42 of the Constitution. They extract that to Medina Zongo here, forgetting that by the Citizenship Act, persons who were born in Ghana before 1957, we were not Ghanaians, we were Gold Coasters. And we were West African citizens. We were not Gold Coast citizens, we were West African citizens. And so when we became independent, the Citizenship Act at independence recognized that there were people who were West Africans by nationality, did not attach, associate, or identify with any ethnic group in Ghana, but were born here, their ancestors, their grandparents were born here. And that is why the Citizenship Act provided that if you were born in Ghana before the 6th of March 1957 to a parent or a grandparent who was born within the confines of the territorial confines of Ghana, then you are a Ghanaian. Because in law we have what we call disputes. There must be an end to disputes. There must be an end. So, just like the African Union and the OAU has said, that the territorial confines of the states as existed at the time of independence should be respected by all countries. Because they realized that there was no science, there was no logic in the partitioning of Africa. And if we allow for people to begin to make territorial claims, then Africa would descend into what? Chaos. And that is why that is that principle, respecting the territorial integrity of existing states. What business has the military in registration? And sometimes MPP, they make me cringe. In 1992, Master, MPP were the first political party to object to the presence of security men at polling stations and registration centers. MPP! You know, Rawlings was just transiting from a military rule to a democratic rule. And so we needed to put in place institutions which could guarantee that the transition will be smooth. MPP said, what? Don't you know that if you put a soldier man and a gun, and especially Rawlings being a soldier man, and then the soldiers, first of all, have some affinity to Rawlings, and then you put a gun at the registration center, you'll be scaring away our people, our supporters who want to come and register. MPP was the first to raise it. Today, it's not. What kind of party is this? You approve it and reprove it. But we have not forgotten. They deployed military to guard our borders because there was a threat of foreign invasion. And the foreign invasions where our neighbors would come in and register and remove them from power. No, Ghanaians are going to vote to remove them from power. Ghanaians. There was no business. The military and the police, the immigration had no business being at police stations or mountain barriers to stop people. The law itself has a self-correcting mechanism. Even today, the ID card that is issued to a person who has presented himself to a registration officer for registration creates a rebuttable presumption. Creates a rebuttable presumption that that person is a Ghanaian. That card, the fact that you have it, doesn't entitle you to vote until your citizenship unless your citizenship is not challenged. Immediately your citizenship is challenged, that card you are holding will be a subject matter of litigation. So that is why it is a rebuttable presumption. That there's a presumption that anybody holding it is a Ghanaian, but that presumption can be rebutted. And that's the self-correcting mechanism for elections. MPP says no. Today, I'm even shocked that the Electoral Commission has extended mop-up. When I was coming at Kwabinya, I saw a long queue. I'm shocked because 2 weeks ago, the Electoral Commission came out and published that the registration exercise they had conducted so far recorded 82% of their targeted group that they wanted to come. 82%. If you get 82% in examination, what is that? It's an A. In Legon, you might even get an A+. And we're left with 2 weeks. They continue with the exercise for 2 weeks. They say they're doing mop-up. Apart from the mop-up, did you know that what they simply did was to try to close the gates to other political parties and engage in impunity? I heard the Dominic Nito will say that both parties were bashing people. The real culprits in this matter, as a political activists, were the MPP. And they were littered all over the place. In Nima, went to Chamba, bashed people. The candidate in Nima, MPP candidate in Nima. In Yamba, the National Service Director, bashed people. All over the place. They were bashing people. In Bunkurugu, the PC was engaged in bashing people. Not only bashing people, there was an attempt to bring in BIM movers who were across the border. A litany of stories. You can't create. You see, one thing about politics, and Nana Akufo-Addo should have learned from Kufuor, the power is transient. The power can be tricky. Kufuor left a Ghana by international standards, which would have secured Nana Akufo-Addo a victory when he contested the first time. What did the Ghanaians say? What did the Ghanaians say? They said no. They were not ready for the continuation of the MPP in power. They were not. They voted against Nana Akufo-Addo. The same thing will happen. You can't keep a people perpetually subjugated. They will rise. They will rise up. You might be surprised, like an MPP man once told me when I was on my training exercise, that they never knew that, they always knew that Nana Akufo-Addo lacked leadership qualities. They never knew that when given the mandate to rule this country, it would be a disaster. And that the greatest miracle and shock will be that MPP members will vote against their government. The exercise itself is revealing, in essence.
Okay.
It's revealing that many people who didn't care about elections are now struggling to get their names onto the register. There must be a purpose for that. Okay. And the MPP should watch out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alhaji Nusa Hussaini. Starting off the discussion for us, let me just read a few messages, and I'll come to Mr. Hiagba for his thoughts. Dennis Yakwete says, it is indeed hard for feeble minds like us to criticize an academic giant of the... Okay, he is talking about working with Rawlings and kind of Professor Ahwoi, but we still have to do it as the launch of his new book, given the accept of same circulated in the media so far. Regrettably, is an exercise of self-imposed naivety, truth be told. His book, Working with Rawlings, would harm His Excellency John Mahama in the forthcoming December 2020 presidential election than what it may have intended. And a good old prof should have known better, except that it was circulated to self-destruct the reason for doing so. Only time will tell. Habib Bantos is saying good morning to us. Says, when it comes to the new voters register, Ghanaians have never seen such a state-sponsored intimidation by some unscrupulous vigilante security forces. Intimidating people of some tribe is a crime to come from the Volta region from the north. In any case, we only challenge residences, not tribes. Akufo-Addo is going down, okay, as the Muslim democratic dictator who was in power to divide and rule its people at the end of the day. Have you seen what the Akufo-Addo graduates are doing? Udeduje says, can we be told the number of Togolese arrested for trying to register? The old register was claimed to be bloated. Now that they have recorded more registrants in this new one, would they describe it as elephantized? Thank you for those messages. We'll keep reading as we go along. Mr. Anyagba.
Well, thank you, Sena. And thank you, my senior and lawyer Inisa Fuseni and my sister. I think it's very nice to be here. And my thoughts as my senior spoke were one of disagreement from head to toe. The portions of his submission, that is not to discredit what he said, but just that I have strong disagreements to it. There were issues raised that have long been resolved or should have been resolved. And much of the argument he's making are historical in nature and conflicting that with present day event as though those things are happening today. You see, the country's history, colonial history, is well documented. I think we've come to embrace that as who we are. And so the borders of this country cannot be shifted. They are permanently etched. And so if there is a discussion today that there was a borderline and therefore people were divided across, those were facts that we know, and they remain the fact today. So that if somebody is stuck behind a border, last I was going along the borders in Ketu South and I saw a number of the pillars that the Germans planted to indicate the separation between the two places. And that speaks to what we have come to accept, that this portion is Ghana and that portion is Togo. There's issue running about the oceans when we had some dispute with Ivory Coast. Those things are issues of permanent demarcation and cannot change. And so let's internalize that fact and not try to conflict the issue and say that somehow we can move them when it suits us when it comes to registration. Now, an individual in Ghana, and I happen to be somebody like that, where my family was affected by the demarcation. So a portion of our family was stuck in Togo and portion here in Ghana. But then the ones that are in Togo have accepted their Togolese, even though their heritage is in Ghana. Come home, they do everything, but they behave, they engage, and accept their citizenship as Togolese. Now, if these family members want to do a dual citizenship, they have the liberty per our Citizenship Act to be able to do that. They have to do it. Now, the challenge currently is making the argument to say that because the people are divided and part of the land is in Togo and part of the land is in Ghana, they should be allowed at any rate to behave electorally as Ghanaians. Nothing else matters. All they can do is that because they have heritage from Ghana, because the Germans divided a line between us and some of them over there and some of them here, it allows them when they want to vote to come and vote. But it doesn't say that they should also fulfill their citizenship responsibilities by paying tax. It didn't say they must exercise any other responsibility required of them as citizens, but as per voting, they must be allowed any day if they want to vote. I think that is a flawed discussion and rationalization of the issue. We need to get to a point where individuals themselves, per the Dual Citizenship Act that my senior referred to, if anybody wants to activate that right, then they can do so and go through the process to then be a dual citizen. Until then, you create a situation where people will have to look at you with suspicion until proven. And that is the challenge. And so if that process is not done, and there is an election, and you say that let anybody just come in and claim that my grandfather comes from here and therefore I am a Ghanaian, so I want to register to vote. Not only that, but then there is an active mobilization, okay, to go across and bring such people to come and register. You create a problem for all of us. It talks about rebuttable presumption. And that I agree. To the extent that individuals would get on the register and they will have the appropriate means of justifying and showing their citizen to be on the register, I don't think that anybody will challenge anybody. But then what was at issue was whether or not those individuals at the time we're doing the registration have ample time to show and to demonstrate. And mind you, it is not only Ahwois who are in Togo. Okay? There's not only Ahwois who are in Togo, there's other tribes who are in Togo. Are we to presume that anybody coming from across the border is a victim of the boundary separation, who has lineage from voter region and therefore should be able to vote? And also the practical issue, and I think my senior will know this better than I do, if there is a division and you have your portion of something and you own that, when they ask them today, they would claim they are Togolese. But just because their lineage comes from here, they must be able, per the argument, that they should be able to come here and vote. Do you know where the Ahwois originate? It's all the way in Nigeria. So that I should be able to make a case today that my origin is from Nigeria, Benin, and the rest of the place. So I should be able to go there and vote. Is that the extension we're supposed to make? Is that how fluid the situation is supposed to be? Interestingly, the portion which includes me that remained in Ghana after the German separation of the border, I cannot today go to Togo and vote. Why is that? You understand? So the point we're making is that if my senior agrees that Ghanaians will vote, and that process belongs to Ghanaians, so Ghanaians should make that conscious decision. I think that the process of wanting to exercise your franchise is a sacred one reserved for citizens. So if I am a citizen of Ghana and I want to register, I should be the person who makes that intentional, deliberate decision. I want to, because there is a process and there's a way I want my country to be governed that is of interest to me. So I want to get registered so I can vote for one who I think has the best proposition for this country. And so therefore, that individual should be the one who makes that decision and not a collection or a political party that activate that process, incentivize people to bring them to come and register. That for me is the problem. So across the border, soldiers were brought, and now what we needed to isolate for attention was the claim that the soldiers were brought there to intimidate people. That was not the case, and that is not the case, because the COVID-19 situation, which my senior in Parliament voted to pass the EI for, to close the country's borders, among other things, air, land, and sea, precludes people from coming, whether or not they are citizens. Okay? If they want to come, there's a process through which they must come, and we have been seeing evacuations and things like it. But not just to wake up one morning and say, well, I'm going back home, and they just cross the border and come because the borders are shut. That's a simple enough situation for people to understand. But somehow the NDC wants to inflate this. They've created a chaos situation in the Volta region, which does not exist, by the way, that the military were in Volta region, especially Ketu South, which was their concern, intimidating people. It is not true, but they created this by way of propaganda to make it appear as if Voltarians are being intimidated, excluded by some design by government, which is not true, because I was there. The paramount chief of Aflao, who made that press conference and talked about soldiers being brought to town and all of that, he knows it's not true, because I went to tell him the facts. He knows that. But then by some design, he's been made to give that press conference. And I've made this claim to him. So we have gotten to a point where this registration exercise should not have been a subject of such discussion in the Volta region, by extension, the intentional exclusion of Ahwois, which has become a subject of sensitive discussion. And I think that the NDC is profiting from this and intentionally created this to profit from it. Nothing like that happened. You probably didn't hear. There was a group of other chiefs who realized, not one chief, but a group of chiefs, who came out and said this thing must stop because what they are saying is not true. But then they have gone ahead with this because the borders were shut, which they have been party to in passing a law in Parliament to stop people from coming. So then if you go behind the making of this law and ensuring that that law you made must be enforced, if you go behind that act and create an impression that some group of people are being targeted for treatment, I think that that is disingenuous. And that the NDC continues to do. And that creates a situation as though that this voter register was problematic. It wasn't. As far as I know, because from the beginning of the registration, I was in the voter region for a whole week, and the week before it ends, Thursday, I was there for it to end. And I have not seen anybody being intimidated. The soldiers that were in town were lodged at the various unapproved entry into Ghana. And if you go there, you will see that they are not patrolling in town. They have not mounted borders in town, barriers in town. So why is it that people will put this thing out there as though it's true? Assuming the rest of us don't go there, then we'll buy into that and panic all the same as though something is being done by design. The issue about people and citizenship, I think that from my initial the opening statement, is a question of history. And therefore, that is not a present-day discussion, assuming that some people were presumed not to be Ghanaian, some people were presumed to be more Ghanaian and all that. That is a historical discussion, and that is not a creation of the New Patriotic Party. So let's get the issues properly situated, and we can discuss them. My feeling is that this register that was done, I think, with all the disagreements my brother has expressed, he agrees that this is a credible register. I don't know if you disagree, but I just left the program with one of his party members who agree that generally that the process has been smooth, and therefore the register is credible. Now the numbers, as they agree or disagree, I don't think that is either here or there. In the end, we have gotten to a point where we have a register that they can be confident in, we can all be confident in. Moving forward, that is healthy for our democracy, and all of us has an occasion to attest to the process, how it's gone. And I don't think that there is any other thing to contend about the register. The numbers, as they say about it, I think there was 17.8 million, the old register, and then this is close to about 16, it's about 16.8 from my recent update. And given the projections of maybe additional 2 million or 3 million to be added if we're doing limited registration rather than doing a new one, we'll probably be heading close to about 19.8 right about now. So I don't think that there's any departure from what I think is real and reflective of the population. So let's get to a point where we just accept this and not make this discussion about somebody seeking to do something to disadvantage people. But this is a process to give everybody confidence. You know, the issue with this old register, starting from 2014, 2016, the discussions about it, is been damaged in ways that doing a new one gives everybody a new beginning. And the idea that that should not have been done, I think that will only cause lingering questions. Maybe from the MPP or any other political party that supported and wanted a new register done. Because that register suffered in ways, or is actually arguable in terms of the validity, given the act that really supervised its creation. You know, CI 72 had questions to do with whether or not you can identify who used NIA card, who used passport, who used driver's license. That was not provided for in that CI. So it is difficult for you to tell me that you are going to remove people who had NIA card as a basis for identification to get on the register. You couldn't possibly do that because the CI didn't specify. CI 91 corrected that. Okay? So then if you want anything at all, anything from 2014 thereabout, you could possibly be able to decipher who used which identification to do. What we have now, you can disaggregate that all the way to who used the guarantee system to put on to get on the register and who validated them as citizens or as being qualified to be on the register. So this is a more advanced data, It's a data that can be investigated properly. So when Masina talked about migrating the data and replacing the equipment, you couldn't have done that with the old register, because you migrate a data that is not properly defined and onto a new system that requires proper definition, that the two will not sit well. So you need a data that conforms to the new particulars that we need to be able to understand the data, distill it to the very micro level, who is what and who did what. That, for me, is the way forward. And I don't think that we have lost the historical essence of it. We, even I think 2012, it wasn't a migration from 1992 or 96. It was a new data compiled. The biometric data in 2012 was entirely new. So I agree that data should be there. We shouldn't destroy data. But then when you have a questionable data, migrating it forward only means that you're migrating the distortion forward, and that doesn't help you, even though you want to keep data for historical purposes. So I think that my initial reaction to that would be that the process, as we've all gone through, is as fair as can be. Let's continue to express our views, but not to discredit what we all seen to be a fair process.
Let me read a couple more messages from Facebook that you are sending to us. And the Facebook page is Pan-African Television, Pan-African Television. Sape Agbo, he said, well posited, but my question to you is, will you accept it if someone branded any member of your family from Ghana, but living on your family land in Togo as a Togolese? Because that's the interpretation of citizenship being peddled by your new patriotic party. Fogan Okunu says, I am from Aplau. I know Ahangba family very well. Most of the women in their houses are married in Lome. The children of Ahangba's sisters in Togo are Ghanaians by birth. Interesting. Philip Adika says, Sena, greetings to you and your panelists. I move that Ghana's constitution should be written in our local language so that no one will be contracted to interpret it to me. Thank you for that message. Some more messages before I move to Jifa. Positive Change in Medina says, when Akufo-Addo and appointees decided to remove religious and moral education from school syllabus and replaced it with comprehensive sexuality education, insults, twerking, beating of teachers and invigilators from examination halls are what the students will give you. Thank you package for giving them free but not quality education. Thank you for that message. A lot of very short messages. Ewuntoma Sumaila Issa says, I'm surprised to hear from EC saying there are multiple registrants on the current register, but the machines were designed to identify those mistakes. EC must be very careful and stop joking with us. Roxanne Doe, Sena, there's a loot to share agenda behind this new compilation of a new register, which the EC and her employees are going to account for come rain or shine. So more messages coming in. Jifa.
Yeah, so good morning once again to my distinguished guests here, or my fellow guests, should I say. I'm very honored to be on this platform. I say good morning to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, a man with so much vision, and I'll say a good morning to my own father, Mr. Tegan. He's a very passionate man. I want to recognize him. Now, Sena, there were a couple of concerns before the registration started. We were thinking that these are not normal times. COVID-19 is here and it doesn't seem like it's going anytime soon. We were thinking that the document for identification should be something everyone has access to, every eligible Ghanaian has access to. We were thinking that there would be issues of ethnocentrism. And the EC also came out to talk about overbloated register as being one of their main reasons as to why we should compile a new register. Now, that was before the registration. We had not, there was no way, I mean, we tried in several ways to make reason with the fact that these are very, very important issues that needs to be addressed. And therefore, compiling a new register was a luxury we couldn't afford, or should I say, was a risk we should not take. But no, the EC was bent on it, and we all know the people that were much more in support of this, the NPP. They were bent on going through with the registration exercise. So now registration has started, and then we come in. only for us to be vindicated right after. Let me start with the COVID-19 protocols that we didn't observe. Every country out there has suffered a huge blow from this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, right in the middle of it, we thought there was no way, looking at human psychology and the way humans think and act, there is no way we could have a mass registration exercise and observe social distancing or the protocols to avoid spreading of this virus. It was not possible. It was not reasonable. We would try, but human beings are human beings. And already we were even investing in educating people as to how dangerous this is. I am surprised that as much as we spoke, and as let me just say, the so-called attention that the president gave to this pandemic and how serious it was, none of the people at the top, the EC and the NPP government, none of them thought that this alone was even a serious reason or a very major reason to fall back. That is to say, if at all it was very, very important to go on with this registration exercise, the lives of many Ghanaians who would partake in this registration exercise alone should be considered. But no, it wasn't even a major topic anymore. And we were allowed to start this registration exercise, thinking that at the end of the day, we are going to observe social distancing protocols. You wear your mask and you wash your hands or use hand sanitizers, and then that is the end of it. So I'm sure you registered. I do not know. If you didn't register at all, I am sure you came close to polling stations or registration centers and saw what went on. The first week into registration, people were packed in their numbers at registration centers, talking and exchanging views on what was going on. There were even a lot of banters going on at registration centers, only for us to, the policemen were always standing aside. There were a lot of people who were not in nose mask. I mean, how careful can you be? It takes about a minimum, or should I say a minimum of 14 days to start seeing the effects of COVID-19 if you have contacted and contracted one. The numbers that we saw that were appreciating the numbers that were appreciating after the first 2 weeks of COVID-19, or the first 2 weeks of registration was alarming. We didn't want to talk about it because, of course, it has come. We have started registering. We didn't want to talk about it. But I was interviewed a few weeks back, and I made a statement there. The presenter thought it was too harsh when I actually accused the president of considering or regarding the registration over the lives of human beings or the lives of Ghanaians. I don't see how wrong this is. This is what went on in the registration, that you have forgone all the things that we have to attend to in our health, all the protection that we need, and decided that this registration was much more important than the lives of human beings. Then you would come and tell us how much we are spending every time on trying to combat this illness. I think it's a cross-90 thing. We have failed drastically. It is a disappointment internationally to think that in the middle of a pandemic, we are busily doing mass registration. Note, it is not just any registration exercise, it is mass registration. Because if this hadn't gone on, there would have been just the normal registration that would have added on new voters to the registration exercise. Now let me move on to the guarantor system. The NDC and a few parties, including some civil society organizations, thought it wise that the EC's suggestion of just using a passport or your Ghana card and lastly a guarantor system wasn't the best. We thought that we needed a much more basic identification document. The issue was thrown out of court, or should I say, that case was lost. And so every Ghanaian is forced, or should I say, is expected to consider one of these 3 identification documents, else you wouldn't be able to register. So now, how many people in Ghana, especially in the rural areas, how many people have passports? It is not common at all. And it's no joke. Getting a passport, people get passports when they are interested in traveling or when they have intentions to travel. Aside that, you do not see, it's not very common for a normal Ghanaian to go and take a passport and to go and acquire a passport. Now, the Ghana card registration, as I'm talking to you right now, is still ongoing. It started some months back and hasn't even been long, or should I say, taken in a deeper level where we can confidently say that every Ghanaian, or should I say a very large number of Ghanaians, at least 90% of Ghanaians have the Ghana card. We are not in that level yet. As we are talking, there are parts of Eastern region that are still doing Ghana card registration. So it tells you that it is not acquired by every Ghanaian yet. We are still in the process. These are the 2 major documents that are supposed to be used for registration. And I know for a fact that I have relatives and friends who do not have both. And so there will be a large number of the population leaning on the guarantor system. A very large number. Because if I do not have a passport, I don't have my Ghana card yet, I'll be leaning on the only option that I have left, which is the guarantor system. Codeo came a few weeks ago and expressed their disgust of what they saw at the registration centers, where guarantor forms were being abused. You have people guaranteeing for people they have never even met before. The only time they met them was in the queue. We have people who are filling forms, or should I say, they will even tell you that the forms have been filled prior to your arrival. You just enter the necessary details, personal details, and then you are good to go. And according to Codeo, it was happening in both parties. Now, why do you think this is a case? How many, let me start with the parts where Codeo, Rhoda, she's the head of Codeo now. Why do you think that a lot of people would be filling forms for people? My grandmother, in fact, my grandparents are all not literates. There's no way they can fill the forms by themselves. So with that part, it is very understandable. And you have a whole adult who cannot fill their own forms by themselves, asked that you have to fill a guarantor's form if you do not have all these 2 documents. So at the end of the day, it is going to be a norm in every single polling station or registration center for there to be a literate or somebody who can represent you when it comes to filling of the forms. You enter your constituency and probably you are registering at a place where you are not well known. You probably speak the Twi language very well, or you probably look like a Ghanaian, and you've entered, you've been able to fill your guarantor's form. Now, you need someone to guarantee for you. And then you look around. You don't actually know anybody there. It could even be that you live in that neighborhood, but at the time that you were coming there, your friends and family were not there. You look around and you have to fall on somebody who thinks that you are old enough to, and you are more than 18 years, and you look like Ghanaian. So I should be able to guarantee for you. And then it begins. And then someone guarantees for you, not knowing you. After about a week of registration, this issue became a norm in the registration centers. That you go, and then if you do not have a guarantor, there were instances. David of CTFM, I was being interviewed by him. And he even told me that there was an instance where an EC official was the one who even suggested to somebody who had finished registering that wait and guarantee for this person because he has already gotten his card. It was that bad that EC officials were doing that. What point am I trying to make here? I'm trying to say that yes, the guarantor system was abused, but it was because there was no better option. When you do not have a national ID, you do not have a passport, or you do not have the Ghana card or the ECOWAS card, the only other option that you have is the guarantors form. And there were several people, a lot of people leaning on this option. So much so that after 1 week of being at the registration center, you realize that there are so many of that instance or that issue, that situation, that it becomes a norm for everyone to come there and say, I have a problem. I do not have Ghana card and I do not have a passport, but I want to use a guarantors form. Now I pick a guarantors form and fill it. I look around and I need someone to register for me. In the second to third week, it was so normal. You don't go there and even have a problem at all. Now the only problem that there was let me enter into the ethnocentrism, which is a very, very sensitive topic. And it is unfortunate. Let me start with the fact that this ethnocentrism issue is not an issue that only arose when the voter registration exercise was about to start. Let's not forget. I am an Ahwoi, so I know what I'm talking about. If my brother Richard here will dispute it, it will be very, very obvious that he is just, he would just talk about that because of the side that he is affiliated to right now. Way back in 1970, at the time, we had Buzia as our prime minister. He was being deputized by Akufo-Addo's father. Let's say
the president.
Yes, his title was the president at the time, but the position was he was being deputized. There was the aliens compliance order during that period that changed a lot of people that were thought to be aliens or foreigners out of the country brutally. In that period, it was that bad to the extent that even their properties were sold at ridiculous prices. That wasn't just the beginning, but that is a major reference to as far back as when it started. And Ahwois were the major victims of this Aliens Compliance Act. It has been way back. It isn't today. I am an Ahwoi who attended school in KNUST. There were times that I find myself in a certain group discussing or being involved in an issue, and someone will ask my name, and I'll tell the person I'm called Efia, because I know the reaction that would come after when I tell them I'm called Jifa. The intimidation has been there for long, and it isn't just today. Why do we today have a group called the Transvolta Togoland who insist that they want to break free from Ghana and be their own country? One of their major reasons is because they have never been accepted as Ghanaians, and they have always been intimidated as foreigners and treated as such. In mine, I am a Ghanaian, a proud one. I do not support their act as Ahwois, but we should understand that there are reasons coming from that. There are reasons why these people are acting the way they are acting. And it is pathetic. We have to be considerate of the reasons that they are doing that. Their major reasons is because they haven't been treated like that. Why haven't been? What makes them say that? Is it because, do we think that they are lying? Or do we think that they have no reason at all? There was for NDC. So suppressing them would help suppress the votes that NDC is going to get. Take Banda region take Banda for example. What happened recently? The people there were Ahwois. The people that were going through that suppression from the military men were Ahwois. And you would wonder why someone would accuse people of being transported from Togo far back to Banda, when you haven't even read to know that the history of Ahwois in Banda dates back as far back as 1916. It's called migration, just moving from one point to the other, and we have it everywhere, including Ashanti region, where we have Angloka Junction that hosts a lot of Ahwois. But the NPP says that they do not understand it. They will not accept the fact that we can find other people there. But my problem is, are they not other tribes that have also migrated? Why is the concentration on Ahwois and Northerners? it proves to a large extent, or it exposes the NPP to say that their agenda towards the new voters register is what is coming out. That Ahwois are NDCs. A large number of Ahwois are NDCs. And for that fact, kicking them out or cutting their tails short is going to help the NPP generally. You take an example of Ouattara. Let me come to the effect of some of these things when it is not being taken care of. Ouattara from Ivory Coast had taken leadership roles, a lot of leadership roles as a politician. And eventually, when he was going to contest as president, his citizenship was questioned. And it was so unfortunate because this man had been there in, they said he was half Ivorian. He wasn't a full Ivorian. This man had been in Ivory Coast for such a long time. And he's going to contest president. And your first instinct is that he is not Ivorian. It was these things that led to the civil war. Okay, should I say this was one of the major reasons that led to the civil war in Ivory Coast that cost them so much because of one person who obviously his citizenship wasn't supposed to be questioned in any way. Our own father, Jerry John Rawlings, had a similar issue some time back, and he was taken to court because they thought he wasn't Ghanaian, or they opposed the fact that he was Ghanaian. And we were all here and we saw it. I mean, what does citizenship represent? Does every country not have a border? We have borders in South Africa. I mean, South Africa has a border. Nigeria has. Togo has. Mali has. What is the kind of relationship with two countries that have a border, dividing them? What is the kind of relationship that should be? My boss here just mentioned the fact that it is an imaginary rule. We cannot see vividly the border of Togo. It is demarcated in documents. That means to say what Sir has always been saying, that someone has a house here and has his bathroom in Togo. It is intertwined. I live in a border town. I come from a border town, Juje. So I have a lot of family members who go in and out of Togo every week. There are traders who go in and out every week from Togo. Some of them are Ghanaians, some of them might be Togolese. Some of them have been living in Togo, in Ghana, for a very long time to even qualify as citizens. There was a time that Olympio, who was the son of a sitting president in Togo, he once won a case in Ghana as being a Ghanaian when he was able to prove that his grandparents were Ghanaians. Look, it was evident. We all knew that this man is a son of a president in Togo. So it would have been just simple to assume that he was Togolese. But he even won a case. And trust me, the court knew where his parents were from. It is to tell you that the issue about citizenship is not just clear-cut. That you live here and so you are only a citizen of Togo. And you can never be a citizen of Ghana. A citizen of Ghana. The people that were intimidated in Volta region, Pena and a few places that were approached by national security operatives, were intimidated. Like they just come to you, they ask you questions in French. When you're able to answer, that was it. Were they even allowed to prove their citizenship in the first place? So the people that are going against this are just using a language barrier, a language content, and the fact that and your geographical station to just conclude that you are not Ghanaian. Yesterday, I saw a video of a man who was speaking in Ahwoi. I wish we could have shown that video, but don't worry, let me reference it. He was speaking in Ahwoi, and he was told that the disabled and the old men would be brought in a bus to come and vote so that it would be easier for them because they were, it was difficult for them to come. Now, just when they got there, he was told that they were told, all the people in the bus were told that they are not Ghanaians, so they will not be allowed to register. If my brother is interested, after the show, I can even show him that video. It is very pathetic. The man at that point, at that very point in the car, had his Ghanaian passport in hand. He was actually coming to register with a Ghanaian passport. He had worked at the Ministry of Finance before. He's a retired man. He's an old man. He had worked at the Ministry of Finance before and several other government companies. But the national security operatives that confronted them did not care to find out anything, just concluded that they were not Ghanaians and decided to turn them. And it was pathetic. It is so frustrating. We end up listening to our father, the president of Ghana, telling us that he is not aware of these things. Just like he once told us that he was misled. A president who is being misled, a president who is not aware of issues, very, very important, or should I say grieving issues that are going on in the party. Pictorial evidence, video evidence, showing your people being intimidated. You tell me that you are not aware. And how am I supposed to take that? This whole issue goes a long way to tell us that the EC's voter registration exercise is a failure to me. Yes, we have got the numbers. Yes, people have registered. And we've seen the outcome of the registration exercise. The numbers are good. It's okay. It's what a lot of people expected. But as at how it was conducted, especially because of the efforts they put in insisting that they wanted this registration exercise to be done, we thought that it would have been done in the most humane ways possible. It should be done with so much consideration, bringing everyone on board, but it has only exposed the agenda of the EC and the NPP. Now, finally, let me just add the numbers, or should I say, Bright Simmons. I watched one of his interviews, and then he was referring to the fact that since 2020, it wasn't even him, I mean, it's on record, since 2000 till now, there has been very good consistency with the numbers. What was the overbloating that the EC was talking about? In every year from 2000, in every election year, we added up just about 1 million to 2 million to our register. In every year. In last year, we were just around 15 point something million, let's say averagely 15 million. And today, we are just a little above 16 million. So if we have recorded this, what is the bloating that the EC was talking about? I mean, why didn't we record lower numbers or maybe the same numbers that we recorded in our last registration exercise? So it's unfortunate, but I think that this particular registration exercise has exposed the intentions that the EC together in bed with the NPP had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jifa. There's a couple more messages before I go to Mr. Pratt. Musa Bato in Kumasi says, the military at the polling stations are needless. What's their business in interfering in our electoral process? In Asawase constituency, for instance, anti-robber squad were all patrolling our polling stations, and I wonder whether armed robbers were there to rob EC officials. EC and MPP government should take ultimate responsibility for the physical assaults, violence nature that resulted in the death of the young man in Banda. Kojocho Mbuafo says, Sena, good morning. In a day to come soon, we will soon create a rebuttable presumption about the citizenship of Abronya DC, also known as Kwame Bafo. Information available indicates that he was born to Lobi parents. The people of Lobi come from Ivory Coast. We will soon find out whether his real name is Kwame Bafo or he took the name of his parents' landlord. Please let my brother Richard know that he's welcome to Alhaji and Alhaji. No one will challenge his citizenship on that platform. Even though he doesn't come from the 87% resource-producing part of Ghana, he will be allowed to make his submissions peacefully without a mounted 50 caliber machine gun staring at him. So my brother Richard, the steam that normally emanates from... Thank you, Kojo, for sharing that message. And let me read Senator Brighton Dansoma, who says, Sena, I have represented my party NDC on the EC's District Registration Review Committee since the start of the registration. And interestingly, All those who were challenged for not being a Ghanaian and underage especially were all of us and people from the northern part of Ghana. This can't be a coincidence. And the challenges were made by MPP assemblymen, constituency executives, among others. What are all this for? Why the hatred forever? I'm sad listening to Richard. So happy that, his fellow Victorians are being treated in this inhumane way. This is not democracy. The president must stop the dictatorship. Kofi Adoli is saying, let me take the chance to educate Richard Ahwoi and the MPP aiding the subjugation of bona fide Ghanaians from the Volta region. Citizenship is an unhinged right, not a privilege. It is not hinged on tax payment. Neither is it hinged on residence. It is natural in and of itself. It is ignorant, therefore, to justify the abuse of citizens on the basis of non-residence and non-payment of tax. Is he aware of the case of Gilchrist Olympio? It's Kofi Adoli. Thank you for that message. Let me jump to one message before I go to Mr. Pratt, because Richard, were you on the show with Alex Agbefia?
Yes.
Okay. This is what he sent me. He said, I am told Richard says that I said the election process was smooth. But we argued on Banda. We argued on Volta region. What were we arguing about? Except that there were attempts to disenfranchise our people. I even said twice that it was the perseverance and tenacity of our people that allowed our numbers to be that high. How does the above issues translate into a smooth process? That's from Alex Agbefia. Mr. Pratt.
Well, first of all, there is something which is very strange. And I've been trying to grapple with it, and I have not found an answer yet. We went for an election less than 4 years ago. The election was won by the New Patriotic Party and its presidential candidate. The presidential candidate, according to the MPP and according to the EC, won by a margin of close to 1 million votes. My question is, what has changed? They won by a margin of close to 1 million votes on a register that they claim to be bloated. If the president's popularity rating is the same as it was 4 years ago, then even with the bloated register, he's likely to win this election by 1 million votes or thereabout. What is it that makes the MPP and the president frightened that if we use the same register, their votes will drop? What is it? The bloated register gave them victory. The register they claimed to be bloated gave the president a margin of close to 1 million votes. What has changed? What is the fear about? I cannot understand it. Unless it is being argued that the popularity rating of the president 4 years ago is not the same as it is today. That can be the only justification. Be that as it may, you had the chairman of the MPP campaign team, not CPP, not NDC, not PPP. Chairman of MPP campaign team, Mr. McMahon, state publicly that the MPP can deliver or can win free, fair, and transparent elections if the bloated register is used. Now, if you can organize free, transparent, and credible elections, what is the need to change the register? That's mind-boggling. I cannot understand it. But what's the purpose of having a new register? Because we are told that we want to have a new register because we want to have clean, transparent, and fair elections. The people who are arguing that we need to have a new register to give us free, transparent, and fair elections say it is possible to achieve these ends with the old register. So what is the problem? I can't understand these things. maybe I'm too simplistic. Maybe there's something so sophisticated that normal people like me cannot understand. But let's put all of that aside. One of the issues which has come up in this registration exercise is simply the question of citizenship. And I'm happy that Jifa made reference to history. The history is more complex than she painted. The question of ethnicity did not start today. It's very, very old, 50, 60, 70 years old. You know why? At a certain point, people like Victor Wusu, Aram Ponsa, and so on, who became stalwarts of the United Party, were members of the Convention People's Party. How did they leave the Convention People's Party to join the LLM? The history is there. The chief linguist of the Asantehene actually issued an edict calling on all Ashantis in the Convention People's Party to leave the party and to join the LLM. Yeah. Was that not an expression of ethnicity? This is 50 years ago and more. Actually issued an edict that if you are an Ashanti and you remain in the Convention People's Party, you will lose your ethnicity. Is it today? Is this voter registration exercise which is bringing this up? Certainly not. In the 1970s, one of the reasons why the New Patriotic Party became so unpopular in the Volta region and continues to be unpopular in the Volta region in spite of all the efforts that it is making was one statement made by Mr. Victor Wusu, who became the apparent leader of that tradition, to the effect that Ahwois are inward looking. Is that today? It's not today. It has a long history. A history of more than 40 years. The reference to Ahwois as inward looking people. That's not today. And I can recite many examples. Look, at some point after independence, CPP members living in Ashanti had to escape. They had to go into exile. They had to flee Ashanti into exile. What was that about? What was that about? You see, so when we are discussing ethnicity and so on, I think that we should all be sober and so on. It's important for me that all of us on this panel, Richard included, Jifa included, Alhaji Inusa included, and so on, are agreed on the point that recourse to ethnicity and tribalism and so on is not in the best interest of our country. But if it's not in the best interest of our country, we should confront it headlong. We shouldn't push it under the carpet because it doesn't resolve the problem. Why? In this registration exercise, I have been shocked by some statements made by otherwise responsible citizens. We are told, for example, that double nationality or dual nationality and something, if you want it, you have to go through a process. Who said that? There's a Supreme Court decision on the matter which is clear. The Supreme Court of Ghana says in clear language that citizenship, dual citizenship, is automatically conferred. You don't have to go through any process. If you are a Ghanaian and you acquire another citizenship, dual citizenship is automatic. You don't have to go through any. This is a decision of the Supreme Court. So those who claim that if you are a Togolese and you are a Ghanaian at the same time, you need to go through some process. What process? Are they in disagreement with the Supreme Court? We are enjoined to accept the decisions of the Supreme Court on the voter registration exercise. But at the same time, we are encouraged to disregard the decision of the Supreme Court when it comes to dual citizenship. What double standards can this be? Clear double standards. Master, the argument that military personnel were posted to the border to protect the integrity of the border and to prevent the spread of COVID-19 should not be repeated anywhere. Should not be repeated when there are reasonable thinking people around. I listened to Kofi Boa, MP for Elemle, and he was talking about his constituency. Places far removed from the border where soldiers had been sent there to flood the place. Even in Aflao, go and look at the deployment of soldiers. I know Aflao very well, and we are all lucky that Richard also knows Aflao very, very well. The area where Diamond Cement is located, is it on the border? It's not on the border. And yet, right on the border. Richard, when did you last go to Aflao?
I just came from Aflao.
Yeah. Are you sure when you went, you were wearing your spectacles?
I had two of them with me.
Oh, you have two spectacles?
Yes.
And you still saw Diamond Cement right on the border?
Yeah, but yes.
It's in the border, but it's not on the border.
Yeah. Okay, you proceed. I guess I don't want to interject.
No, I will allow you to interrupt.
Well, see, I've heard that where people say there were barricades mounted around Diamond Cement. It's not true.
I saw the video. Feely, Gani.
No. No, it wasn't there.
No.
I was there.
We got there, they were removed.
No, Massa.
I was there. I was in Aflao 1 week
Massa.
into the election and 1 week before the end of the election.
No problem. But Richard,
there was no barricade.
Richard, listen to yourself very carefully. You're making two arguments.
No.
One of the arguments you are making is that Diamond Cement is actually seated on the demarcation, the border. You are making that argument. Now you are making a second argument, which is that, it was blocked. People were blocked from passing the Diamond Cement area and so on.
No. I'm saying that there was a video, and I think I referenced it to somebody the last time they were saying it, as I was riding Aflao when they were saying Diamond Cement was barricaded and therefore soldiers were there. It's not true. Diamond
Cement is situated right on the demarcation line.
It cannot
barricading it is like barricading the border. No problem.
Yeah. But
if it's situated in town and it was barricaded, then there's a problem.
Yeah. So
which is which?
The fact is, Diamond Cement, okay, there was no barricade there, and Diamond Cement is near a border location. And there were no soldiers at Diamond Cement. The soldiers were at the border crossing. That's factual.
I saw the soldiers with my own eyes. I saw the soldiers with my own eyes in a video. This program is being watched in Aflao, and the people in Aflao will tell us what happened in Diamond Cement. I'm not worried at all.
Okay.
There are people in Aflao who are watching us now. There are people in Lome who are watching us now. And they would indicate through their text messages and so on who is speaking the truth. You understand?
Fair enough.
So what was the point about blockading Diamond Cement?
There was no blockade.
And then, you see, a lot of us, people like us, don't even know Ghana. We have no idea what the geography of Ghana is like. And so we come and sit on television stations and we sit on radio stations and make claims and statements which are far removed from the reality. In this country, there are places in this country where you only get a vehicle moving once a week. If you miss that truck, you have to wait for 1 week to be able to travel. In many of those places, there are no registration centers. There are no polling stations and so on. So what is wrong with people in those localities agreeing to hire a bus to be able to go and register? What is wrong with that? The reality of their geography, the reality of infrastructural development in those places dictates that they should have communal approach to exercises like registration. And there cannot be anything wrong with that. You understand? And yet, We have made it look like if people come together and they sit in a bus and to go for registration, then they are committing a crime. How can they be committing a crime? How on earth can they be committing a crime when in their area where they live, there is no transport? And some of them are 4 miles away, 5 miles away, 6 miles away, 7 miles away from the nearest registration center. So if you don't know Ghana, don't talk about Ghana. This is our reality. This is the concrete reality in which we live. Now listen, there was another video from somewhere in the Bono region, okay, where the chief, an Akan-speaking chief, confronted the soldiers and told the soldiers that the Ahwoi community in his village had been there since 1919. That there had been intermarriages and so on, and that they considered them as part of the village. And yet soldiers had gone there to prevent them from registering. And I saw that video with my 2 naked eyes. The chief confronting the soldiers and so on. There were many other incidents across the country and so on. So many other incidents. In fact, the most ridiculous one which I heard was about these soldiers and other security personnel going into town and greeting people bonjour. And woe betide you if you respond bonjour. If they greet you bonjour and you make the mistake of responding bonjour, you lose your nationality. And you are driven out. I mean, what ridiculous situation is this? There was another ridiculous claim that actually people were made to scribble, to write. And then they can look at your handwriting and say, what? This handwriting is Togolese. I mean, what madness, what level of insanity is this? Is this how nationality is determined? Then there was another case of people traveling in vehicles inside Ghana. And then immigration officials boarded the buses and were separating those with Ghana ID cards from those without Ghana ID cards. What is this? What kind of a country is this? It's incredible. At independence, our law stated very clearly that everybody in Ghana at the time was a Ghanaian. So all these attempts at redefining citizenship and so on, they are illegal. Clearly illegal. It's an affront to the laws of Ghana and so on. What is this? Ethnocentricity? Listen to some of the statements that our politicians make. All these statements about Yejiyemai, what can it mean? All these statements about Yejiyemai, what can it mean? When ministers sit or stand behind microphones and make the claim that the man they blame is Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And that if Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had not instituted fee-free education, fee-free compulsory education,
that's why I'm surprised about Richard.
Some people from some ethnic groups will be heading cattle.
Yes.
What does that mean?
About you? Talking that we shouldn't be historical events should not be brought out. You hurt when you say that. You hurt people.
I mean, what can that mean?
What can that mean?
What if not total disdain for an ethnic group? What can that mean?
Yeah.
Recently, a minister is being interviewed on television, and the minister boldly claims that, look, if you are complaining about friends and family, government and so on, you should understand that it is meritorious. Only friends and families of a certain group have merit in this country. Meritorious? What does that mean? Meritorious. What does that mean? That's an insult to the whole of the country. And it doesn't stop there. And the minister says in plain English that if you're talking about the history of Ghana and you take out Achim, Ghana has no history.
The minister says that.
What does that mean?
Minister.
That the rest
Achim,
are
Ghana
not
has no
important.
history.
Yes, that the rest are not important.
The minister says that. And from Achim,
My goodness. If I were to say, that if you take out the Gumwas from Ghana, Ghana has no history, what do you think would have happened?
No. Would have
And
been
yet a minister, a highly respected
Minister
minister,
of State.
well-educated minister, is able to say that if you take out Achims from Ghana, Ghana has no history. What insult! And then this business about people coming from somewhere and so on. Who doesn't come from somewhere? Read our history.
Yeah.
If you read our history, the people of Accra, the Ghana people of Accra, at some point migrated from Ile-Ife in Nigeria.
Yes.
Does that make them Nigerians? In any case, even before they went to Ile-Ife, they migrated from somewhere around Palestine, today's Palestine. Does that make them Palestinians? Does that make them Palestinians? Let us appreciate our history properly. I mean, Richard himself, if we trace your ancestry, we will trace your ancestry to Nigeria and beyond Nigeria. Does that make you a Nigerian? What is this rubbish? What is this madness which has gripped our country? I can't believe what is happening. So, the issue of nationality is a very complex matter. And it needs to be reflected upon soberly. You know why I say that? I say that because at independence, if you go to La Côte d'Ivoire, Houphouët-Boigny, who became the first president of La Côte d'Ivoire, was actually, at the time that he was president of La Côte d'Ivoire, also a member of parliament of France. He had French citizenship, had La Côte d'Ivoire citizenship, and was president of La Côte d'Ivoire and a member of parliament in France. This is how complex the question of nationality can be, and it is. You understand? Why do we have a situation in Ghana where somebody with a British passport can actually vote in the British elections and vote in the Ghanaian election? But when you have a Togolese, who can also claim to be Ghanaian, who is indeed Ghanaian, as for him, he cannot vote in Ghanaian elections. Is that not discrimination?
It is.
Is that not discrimination, blatant discrimination against our own people? If that is not discrimination, tell me what it is. You can have a Ghanaian who has a green card in the United States of America voting to elect Donald Trump. He was born here, his parents were born here, his grandparents were born here, his great-grandparents were born here. But he can vote in America and vote here. But if you have somebody with a Togolese identity card, whose grandparents were born in Ghana, his great-grandparents were born in Ghana, his father was born in Ghana, as for him, he cannot vote in Ghanaian elections. And what surprises me is that these are the same people who are calling for ROPA. The same people who are saying that Ghanaians everywhere must be able to vote in our elections. If you want Ghanaians everywhere to vote in our elections, what about Ghanaians in Togo? Why are they being discriminated against? I can't understand it. I can't fathom it. Look, a delegation which was led by Togbe Afediaso visited certain parts of the border regions and so on. Ghanaian Times report last Monday indicated that they were told, they visited the house and they were told that soldiers raided the house, molested the people in the house and so on suspicion that they were harboring Togolese who were going to take part in the registration exercise. And it turned out that it was a fluke. There was no Togolese in the house. This is a delegation led by Togbe Afediaso in the Ketu South area. This is a report in the Ghanaian Times of last Monday. Why are we denying this? You know, I am scandalized by some of the things that have happened over this registration period. Totally scandalized. The EC itself told us that for people above 60 and people who were infirm and so on, a certain category of registrants could go to the EC offices to register. Alright? Yeah. That's what they told us. What happened? Those centers became centers for the registration of big men and women, not the infirm. Because we saw the infirm in the queues. We saw the infirm in the queues, facing humiliation, being pushed around and so on. The protocols were not observed. So what have we come to? And then we are told that this has been a fantastic registration exercise. We are told that it's been so good. In fact, one of the best in our history. I say, if these are standards, then our standards are very, very low. Sena, there's a registration exercise in which people have been stabbed. Stabbed! People have received knife wounds.
One has died.
This is a registration exercise in which people have been pepper sprayed. This is a registration exercise in which guns have been fired. This is a registration exercise in which people have been hit with clubs. This is a registration exercise in which there has been mass chaos and fighting. And this is supposed to be the best in our history. What history? It is supposed to be very good and so on. What very good? And then, when we complain again, they tell you that look at the numbers. The numbers are fantastic. We have the numbers we have today because of the resistance of the population. I've seen ordinary civilians with bare hands confronting soldiers with rifles and telling them we will not allow you to disenfranchise us. In many places, ordinary civilians stood up to this heavily armed security personnel and told them that we would not allow you to violate our constitutional rights and so on. This resistance is what has led to the numbers that we see. Because if the intimidation had succeeded, we would not be having the numbers that we have today. In any case, when Ayawaso West Wuogon happened, it was the clear signal. And I've seen victims of Ayawaso West Wuogon. I've seen them with amputated legs. I've seen victims of Ayawaso West Wuogon whose lives have been destroyed forever. And what were we told when Ayawaso West Wuogon happened? We were told that this is a dress rehearsal for December 7th. Dress rehearsal for December 7th. I was so happy when the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, set up a committee of inquiry to go into Ayawaso West Wuogon. And in spite of the protests from some quarters that they did not believe in the panel of investigators and so on, I insisted that those were credible citizens, people who would not hide the truth and so on. And indeed, they were credible citizens. One of them has now been appointed onto the Supreme Court. And I believe that she will soon become the shining star of our judicial system. You understand? She has a track record which shows that she will soon become the shining star of our judicial system. Ideologically and politically, I may not be on the same side with her, but she's an honest woman. She has principle and so on. She was on the committee. You had Emil Short on the committee as chairperson. You had the former Inspector General of Police on that committee. You had the Dean of Law at Jimpa on that commission and so on. The commission finishes its work, and what does the government do? The government issues a white paper rubbishing the work of a commission of inquiry it has established itself. I mean, incredible. And when that happened, I knew straight away that these incidents of vigilantism, of hooliganism, and of chaos will continue. Because we had a golden opportunity to to demonstrate our commitment to ending vigilantism. We had a golden opportunity to clean the state security apparatus of all these party infiltrators and so on. And we threw that opportunity into the gutter. We threw that opportunity into the gutter. So, are we surprised that people are choking knife? Are we surprised that people are attacking others with crops? Are we surprised at the mayhem we are seeing in this registration exercise? We cannot be surprised. It was clear from Ayawaso West Wagon that it will happen again. I am still very deeply worried that some of these incidents may be repeated on December 7th. And you know my worry? My worry is not so much so that they'll be repeated. My worry is that the mood of the country would not countenance any such infractions, any such attempt to deny people their constitutional rights. And if those brigands, those hooligans, insist on perpetrating these acts of hooliganism and so on December 7th, I cannot predict what is likely to happen. That is my fear. So far, we have been a relatively peaceful country from 1992. From 1992, to the extent that is appreciable, we haven't had it 100%, but we've had peaceful elections, we've had protests and so on, but it has never degenerated beyond a certain level. I am worried that if care is not taken, there may be some degeneration on December 7th and after. That is my worry. That is my deepest worry. And every Ghanaian, and I mean every Ghanaian, should work towards averting that situation. Look, there are so many of our countrymen and women who have not been able to make ends meet for decades. Indeed, I've said on many occasions that there are so many Ghanaian people who are still living in the Stone Age. And this is not a figurative expression. This is the reality of the lives of our people. Within 20 kilometers from the center of Accra, you will find Ghanaian citizens who owning a blender. You know blender, the one they use to grind vegetables and so on in our homes. It's a childhood dream which will never be fulfilled. Never be fulfilled. They have no hopes of owning a blender. They are still grinding their vegetables on stone with stone. That's the Stone Age. They still go to their farms to produce food for all of us, barefooted, susceptible to snake bites. In a country where finding the antidote for snake bites is like looking for a needle in a haystack. That's their reality. These people, they wear tattered clothes, they walk barefooted and so on. These people have no access to any of the healthcare systems that are available to you and I. They have no access to potable water. They will never have electricity in their houses until they die and so on. They are suffering already. We should not impose additional sufferings on these categories of people. Why? Everywhere you go in the rich and affluent areas, you see security people standing guard when their masters and their mistresses are asleep. They protect them and protect their properties and so on. Do you know how much they earn a month? Most of them earn less than 300 cedis a month for risking their lives to protect their masters and mistresses and so on. Even if you enter the civil service and the public service, there are so many people who just earn enough to be able to pay for their transportation to and from work. These are people who are already suffering, and we should not be imposing additional suffering on them. By our recklessness and our extreme partisanship and our ethnocentric foolishness, we should not be dreaming of imposing additional hardship on them. I know, and I am confident that on December 7th, anybody who attempts to thwart the will of the people will face the full consequences of the anger of our population. Look, all of us want to live in peace. All of us want to contribute to a prosperous Ghana and so on. All of us know that if you look at the existing political parties, there is no much difference between them. And that's a fact. In terms of their policy orientation and so on, not much difference. And yet, they expect that we will kill ourselves because they are struggling for power and so on. Incredible. Today, if you go to a cabinet meeting in the Flagstaff House, today, you'll find all the ethnic groups present in that cabinet meeting. Alright? You find Northness in the cabinet meeting, you find Southness in the cabinet meeting, you find Ahwoi in the cabinet meeting, you find Fantis in the cabinet meeting, you find Achems in the cabinet meeting, you find Ashantis in the cabinet meeting. Have you ever heard that at the cabinet meeting they've started killing themselves because one is Achem and one is Ashanti and so on? They don't. They have a common interest of preserving their privilege. That common interest of preserving their privilege holds them together. They ignore their ethnicity. But they are urging us, we, the victims of their privilege and their power, to kill ourselves because we are Achem and Ashanti and Fafra and Dagati and Fanti and Nzema. We should not listen to them. We should also have a common objective of ensuring that national resources are equitably shared. A common objective of ensuring that women are properly respected and treated in our country. A common objective of ensuring that national infrastructure is enhanced. A common objective of ensuring that the quality of education is very high. A common objective of ensuring that pipe-borne water is available to every citizen. We should be united around these common objectives. We should be united around our class interests and oppose these overprivileged people who seek to divide us. We will not be divided and we will insist on being heard. Finish.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. If you're just joining us, the Mother World Talk Shows Alhaji and Alhaji. We're live on Pan-African television. Don't forget, we're also live on Volta 1 TV in Ho. And we are live on several affiliate radio stations. In Accra, we are live on Ahunto 92.3 FM. I'm flooded with messages. I'll take a break. When I come back, we'll see what we'll do about the message. Move on to the next topics for discussion.
Morning is an important time of the day because how you spend your morning can often tell you what kind of day you're going to have. I want you to have a great day. So start your day with me because I can guarantee a great show every weekday on Good Morning Africa right here on Pan-African television. I will be serving some inspiration, news, business, health, newspaper review, music, and so much more. Join me, Kwame Owusu Danso on Good Morning Africa on Pan-African television. Let's have a truly African morning. Medasi.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. Our personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, Listen, you really cannot miss the couch with me, Amma, but still, the only TV show with a hat.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.
Welcome back from that break. It's the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African television. And thank you for sticking and staying with us. Just a few messages, because I can only afford a few because of my time. I sincerely apologize. I'm flooded with messages. This one is from John Tumaku from Aplau, who said Diamond Cement is 2 miles far away from Aplau border. And so I think that's the
Beach along there. The border is way down here. So that's not the same thing.
This one says, I like the issues discussed by Mr. Kwesi Pratt and the passion attached to his points. Many people may not appreciate him, but I always urge him to express them just as he does. God help our country, Ghana. Amen. And thank you for that message. You did not add your name. Okay. This one is from Abra in Tamale, who says, good morning, Mr. Sena and your distinguished guest. Most especially my mentor, Mr. Pratt. I keep on wondering as to why someone asking questions in French, but is not considered a foreigner in Ghana. But if you dare answer that question in French, then you are cast out as being a foreigner. Come December 2020, John, bonjour, Mr. Pratt, but I humbly suggest you don't answer it in French. Thank you for sending that message. And there's some messages that I see, but they don't come. Abraham from Asante Mampong says, I'm really touched by the words of Mr. Pratt. He thinks and speaks as a true patriot and not a political instrument. He's honorable, not those who call themselves with a title, yet does evil to the nation. Thank you for that message. This one sent plenty times. Good morning, Sena. Please ask Richard if there's a border in Banda, especially Bongase, because soldiers were deployed in that community almost 2 weeks before the registration day, lodging in a guest house called Dad and Mom in Banda Bongase. If you could tell us their mission, and not sent that from Banda. And okay, some more. I'll see how many I can manage. Stephen in Achimota says, if we have just 2 people like Mr. Pratt in Ghana, Ghana will be a better place. And we have 6 people like him in Africa. Africa will stand. So we'll move on to our next topics of discussion. Because of the time I have, would have to take the 2 at once, the book and then Founders Day. And 27 minutes means I can't even afford each guest 10 minutes. So it has to be less than 10. So you have to do that in less than 10 minutes. I have 11:27 now, so it means I have 33 minutes.
Wow.
So that is my
challenge. And 33 minutes divided by 4 won't give you 10.
Less than 10. You're going less than 10.
Honorable,
once again, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that basically the topic of today, the one we discussed, has been the most relevant. The past week has seen a lot of commentary on Professor Kwame Ahwoi's book, Working with Rollins. Professor Kwame Ahwoi, and I'm reading the book, has said in the book that this book is not about PNDC. This book, Working with Rollins, is not about NDC. The book, Working with Rollins, is not about Rollins. It's not about Kwame Ahwoi. It is about the working relationship that he engaged in with Rollins. He also makes a very fundamental point. The matters contained in this book are matters that he feels can be made public, but a lot has been confined to the realm of confidentiality and privacy. So it is very important that we keep it that way. I said last week Thursday, and I'm about to repeat the same thing. I have tremendous respect for Kwame Ahwoi. I have seen his youthful pictures until yesterday. that I saw the picture on the back of the book. I didn't know he had a beard like what I had when I was also a young man growing up. He's served this country well. He has contributed to the stabilization of this country. He's achieved and fulfilled himself by being an expert in local governance. He was one time very closely associated with Rawlings. He has demonstrated in his book that he, by virtue of the closeness, he recommended Afarijan and also President Mills to Rawlings. And so, but along the line, the relationship has not worked out well. He says that this book is not motivated by malice. It is just to guide politicians like you and I on what to expect in politics. And so I will entreat my colleagues. Many people, after reading part of the book, and I'm still reading, I get the impression that many people are commenting on the book out of 10. They have not read it. You should get copies and read. The foreword written by Professor Nana is to the effect that it's an honest attempt to recount events between Kwame Ahwoi and former President Rawlings. An honest account. And so I shudder to think that because of the time the book has been launched, or the book was launched, it creates a lot of misgiving, a lot of concern, and has cultivated some propaganda value for the distractors of the NDC. But NDC will not be distracted. Equally, I said last week, just this Thursday, that I have tremendous respect for Rawlings. Yes, my brother Kusipra disagreed with me, and he thinks that I'm in the mood of Nana Akufo-Addo. No, I am not in the mood of Nana Akufo-Addo at all. He was inspired by Rawlings differently from me. I was inspired by Rawlings by reason of the fact that, and when you read the book, you get that too, that this was a man who stood up against established order, who stood up against kleptocracy, corruption, and incompetence of the military regime, who was arrested and because of his 15th May uprising, who won admiration because of the opening statement of G.E.K. Akins, the director of public prosecutions, when he was subjected to trial, and whose speech and his pronouncements during the court martial galvanized junior ranks against senior ranks and led to an insurrection on the 4th of June 1979, which culminated into his release. And so clearly, this, again, I say Rawlings himself is an enigma. He's not a perfect human being. No human being has ever been perfect. All of us have got our shortfalls. But he inspires people like me because he was not given a chance. He was born to a Ghanaian mother and a Scottish father. No one ever gave him the chance that he will emerge as a president of a country like Ghana. He defied the odds. He staged a coup, not once, not twice. 3 times with one attempt, including one attempt, as you say. And so, I think that, and he's helped to establish a level of decency and a level of restoration from the moral decadence and economic decay that Ghana was sliding into. Yes, we might not have sustained the fight against corruption, but it shows clearly as a pointer that when we fail to act, soldiers or renegade persons in society will take up the challenge and put all of us to question. Okay. That is something I take from Rawlings. With the Founders Day, From day one, I have always said that MPP has got it wrong. They've got it totally wrong. Just last month, the Obama read the eulogy of John Lewis. And Obama said that John Lewis inspired him as a young man. But even at the time of John Lewis, he is not credited with ending segregation in America, even though he challenged segregation in America. Rosa Parks, who has now entered the history books of mounting a veritable challenge to racial segregation, this vast right, racial segregation in America, has been recognized by the American society. But Rosa Parks did not start it. Rosa Parks was part of the movement to bring about equality and fairness in America. But that defining moment that he provided gave her the pride of place, that defining moment. So Nkrumah did not start the independence movement. Nkrumah wasn't the only person. In fact, it was UGCC which invited Nkrumah to come and join them to fight the independence. When Nkrumah came, he saw that these were timorous souls who were not prepared to take the bull by the horn, establish authority. They were waiting. The UGCC, like all other independent, British-trained independent fighters, were waiting for the British colonial masters to transfer power to them. They were, Dankwa and Co were waiting for power. And they were those who were being groomed to take over. Nkrumah provided the defining moment where he said, independence now.
Okay, Alhaji, I have to.
That is why we have, and that independence now was what culminated into the establishment of the nation Ghana.
Thank you.
That's why we mentioned 24th September, the birthday of Nkrumah, as the Founders' Day.
Thank you. Thank you. Odomankuma Obuade from Bantama says, if Jean Mensah and Bossman Asari will tell us in the face that the registration exercise they just supervised was overbloated, then why are they still holding their position as commissioners? These are the things that they accuse the innocent Madame Charlotte Osei of doing. So they should peacefully resign. Richard.
Well, thank you. I would have loved to address some concerns raised from the other discussions, which I see were inaccurate. But I guess I will restrain myself and then focus on the remaining two. Oh no! Well, I don't have to. I don't want to misbehave the first time on the program. No. But to stay on topic. That's just what I
can give you 3 minutes of my time in addition to yours. Go ahead.
And I insist on this thing because I was there late at night through early morning. I was on the border on the Saturday, Sunday, just last weekend. I set out around 11 and I was walking up and down, driving up and down the border till 5 a.m. There was not at any point any border or barricade right around Diamond Cement, because when you drive along, where I naturally come back is to drive past Diamond Cement and end up back in town. There was no barricade there for the whole week that I was there. And people in Ketusa will testify, because at the end of my visit there, I had a radio program to discuss what we saw. So that is not true. The rest of the country can see these videos orchestrated to create that impression. Nobody told you that in a polling station, in the registration center, along the border, there's a place called Kologa area. That's right along the border crossings. NDC agents prepared concoction of some herbs that when sprayed on you, you will scratch your skin off your body. They sprayed it on MPP representatives at the station and sacked all of them away from the place. This we are creating and saying that there's some kind of hooligan somewhere orchestrating to affect the interest of Rotarians to register. If that is true, then it's actually the MDC that is perpetrating that. So we must...
The spraying of the member of parliament, you don't read that the member of parliament was sprayed with pepper spray?
Which of the... in Ketusa?
No, Ejura.
College Dauda.
Yeah, College Dauda. You don't read that.
Well, if it... Well, I was talking about
NDC people inflicted that on him.
Okay, but you see, if you want to talk about that, the person of Honorable Collins Dauda represent violence in the Sutify South.
No.
So we can go into that history because his own brother, was on record in 2016 as saying that they've been killing people every day.
No.
Senior, oh yes, this is radio record. Senior, you mentioned about people following Ayawaso, victims that you have seen amputated and all. I can tell you, in the Sutify and the Sunafo, you go there, people are maimed for life under the NDC. So let's not do this by going back and forth about this.
We know the people at Ayawaso.
Yeah.
We don't know the people. I say MPP, don't throw.
Oh,
I don't
Senior, I am making a public statement.
No, I don't
hold on, no. I mentioned a name, I mentioned a constituency. If you disagree, you can have, or we're having a public show.
Chief Director, Executive Director.
Senior talked about seeing Ayawaso West Wogol people amputated and all. I have not seen them. Okay,
so you are entitled to that.
Yeah, so but I'm not disagreeing. But if you disagree, I have mentioned a name. You can verify. We can talk about that after the program. But this is a matter of fact. Abdullah Nabo's discussion about killing people, that's a factual statement. But what I'm trying to say is this. The NDC has coordinated an attempt to get Rotarians excited, okay, to go out and register by putting our tribe out there as a bait. One, over 2 decades of unquestioned loyalty to the NDC. There is nothing the NDC can point to in the Volta region as having done. An NDC person, a member of parliament, is on record to have said that if catapult is done, whichever party does catapult, he will support that party. His party, the NDC, was not able to do it. So I'm telling you that far from the historical antecedents that is being referenced, that's why I think that there must be a point where, to my senior's submission and reference to law, there must be an end to dispute. There must be a point where we put the statement here and say, here on out, what has been the history in this Fourth Republic? What has been the history in terms of race and race relation? Tribe and tribal relations. So that we are not inflicting and importing history as though it's a present day occurrence. The MPP and our history in this country is well documented. The formation of the United Party tradition at heart has voter participation in it. So let's nobody be deceived in thinking that the UP and the UP secession is something that is anti-Ahwoi. The Ahwoi Youth Association was part of the formation of the UP. The Togoland Congress was
not part of the formation of UP.
Please.
No, UP was a amalgamation of two parties in parliament. Ghana Party and then LLM.
That's not true. You can disagree.
Anglo Youth Association was actually one of the wings that came together to form the Convention People's Party.
Well, please, you can look at the history anyway. But the formation...
That's how Buse became the leader of the UP party in parliament. Because SD Dembo had the majority in parliament. So when they came together, Buse did not go to parliament on the ticket of UP. Buse went to parliament on a ticket of a different party. But in parliament they merged. The two parties merged. That's how they came by the name United Party.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting that you disagree with that history anyway. But the truth of the matter is this. the truth of the matter is this, that the Ahwoi Youth Association was part of the formation of the UP tradition. And then, Mr. Pratt, I'm not sure if maybe by the time you come to it, I'll give you the verifications of that. The Muslim Party was part of it. The Togoland Congress was part of the formation of UP. Essentially, when Nkrumah's order, okay, this allowing the formation of parties along tribal lines, that's when all the small parties came together. So I'm not sure what.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
Act was passed even before.
But that was the process. Please.
Actually, have to enact a law.
To
compel you to avoid discrimination.
But it's not passing. Not because of the lawyer. Please, just
okay. No problem.
The point you are making actually reinforces my position, and you know that was in furtherance of the orchestration of a one-party state. So that is not really a glorification that you're trying to seek. So the Nkrumah's avoidance of that discrimination act, that led to the coming together of these small parties to form a united party, and that's factual, lawyer, please. So moving forward in our history, if you hear somebody reference to Votarians, reference UP and Votarians as being people on contrary side, that is not true. Okay. The NDC has continued from 1992, when Rawlings was the head of their ticket, continued to forward this anti-Ahwoi agenda against the MPP, and that is the fact. And today, they have nothing after more than 2 decades of unquestioned support from the Votarians. So what do? They had to create this made-up tribal sentiment against the MPP in their favor. And that's the fact.
Okay.
Now, moving to the book, this issue raises its head in that book. That book, in my view, if you look at Honorable Dana Bodakpi's statement, goes to reinforce the effort in the NDC itself to invalidate Rawlings, who is a Votarian. So if you are looking at people who are interested in discrediting and using Ahwois for their personal end, it is the NDC who is doing it. From when Rawlings left office, and I would respectfully, because of some disclaimers that have been issued, I won't dwell on that issue, there has been an effort in the NDC to invalidate Rawlings. And he is the reason Votarians support NDC, because there is no historical antecedent in terms of who and where Votarians came to support NDC. There is no history to that. The only history is the presence and the person of Rawlings. That's it.
Wow.
Because I have just told you, agree or disagree. The formation of and the tradition of the MPP, where we come from, there is an Ahwoi presence in there. Okay? So when you go to a point where, as a political party, and the presence of an individual whose popularity and whose origin drew a group of people to support that party. And today, there's a systematic effort to discredit that person. And there's an elaborate plan to attack and insult that person. That tells you that these are people who are against Ahwois and not for Ahwois.
Okay.
And the final thing, of course.
And briefly.
Yeah, briefly. I mean,
I don't have time. I don't have the luxury of time. Briefly.
He has spent his time already. He has finished spending the 3 minutes I gave him.
Oh, but
he's still going on.
But that's because, see that, but you know, because a lawyer. This is it. The lawyer was interrupting. Senior was interrupting.
Let him
But you decided to go away from the topic.
The NPP, the Northern People's Party,
yes,
and the
was
Ghana
part
Party,
of the UP.
and the Ghana Party came together in Parliament.
When you have, you see, you are talking about parliamentary formation, parliamentary relationship. That's okay. That's okay. Senior, here's the thing.
Move on to
okay. The Founders Day issue, I listened to my senior brother, Uncle Kwesi, and he's spoken with passion about this issue. But I will be very honest in saying that his position is not entirely wrong, but it's not reflective of history. As simple as that, because if people did not start this process, And the issue my senior brother talked about, people were timorous souls and that, if the timorous souls so referred to did not start a process, Nkrumah could not have come into this country 2 months after to own a 1948 riot. The so-called timorous souls began a process. He came to join hands with the same process to build and salvage this country from colonialism. And that cannot be the work of one man, but it's a work of all and must be credited to all.
Jifa.
Sena, Richard has squeezed me. Richard has eaten into my time.
No, don't worry. Be brief.
Yeah, that is fine.
Don't worry.
On the issue of the book, this is a very sensitive topic. I get disappointed when people who are supposed to know more refuse to know more. This is in reference to my honorable brother here, Richard, because it looks like he hasn't read the book at all. No, well, you didn't reference the
statement.
You didn't reference the book.
No, I didn't reference the book.
That's fine. But we are talking about the book.
He conveniently avoided the book.
Sure. So that's a good strategy there. Because we are supposed to talk about the book here, not just one person's statement relating to the book. Anyway, let's just go straight to what I think about the book. This is a documented information, okay? It looks like Professor Ahwoi maybe liked to keep a diary because he documented events that he thought would be useful in future. For some of us who are very young, we appreciate this book a lot. It is pure history. Now, in this book, he has even said, and I agree with him 100%, that Rawlings indeed is an enigma.
Yeah.
This man is a different kind of man that we needed at a very desperate time in Ghana. And he performed marvelously well. There is no one that can take that. Yes, and you know, we have presidents, and presidents are human beings. You understand? The glorious part of this book is the fact that some of the incidents in the book tells you, eyewitness accounts of what happened that may at a point in time portray, or should I say, show Rawlings being a little bit strict or being who he was supposed to be. And as a leader, we all know there are a lot of leaders here. I mean, as low as being a father of a house, you take a certain decision and not everyone supports that decision. Sena, that is the glorious part of this book. The fact that these are eyewitness accounts and they are plain, simple truths. But generally, you finish reading the book and you see that it has glorified Rawlings as a man who is rare. In the book, Professor Ahwoi even made reference of one of the best things about Rawlings, his human relations, where he had an issue with President Rawlings and sent his resignation letter and offered it to President Rawlings, packed his things and left. President Rawlings didn't talk. Upon reaching home, Professor Ahwoi met his family so happy. Why? Because Rawlings had called them and promised them an air trip the next day. And they were so excited. And Professor Ahwoi couldn't reject that. So the next day, he went with his family. And for 3 hours, President Rawlings piloted a plane and toured them around Ghana, brought them back, had breakfast with them, and, enjoyed the time that they had. You understand? And as they went back, in Professor Ahwoi's words, he said, no one told him the next day he should have packed back. Now, this one was a military man, a man who was very firm. It was his wonderful way of saying, I am sorry, to whatever it is that I may have done that had triggered your resignation letter. And from Professor Ahwoi, that moment alone elevated their relationship and the love that they had for each other. And their relationship continued. This man is who he is, or who Ghanaians know him to be. More of that are in the book. The book shouldn't be just something, just a pile of incidents that is praising Rawlings. It's pure history. And some of us are very privileged because we were not even born at the time. We are privileged to have such information. So if anyone comes out to try and insinuate that it is to tarnish Rawlings' image, it's a lie. In fact, with Professor Ahwoi was interviewed by Kojo Yankson about this book. And after the interview, Kojo Yankson asked Professor Ahwoi that, do you think that if Rawlings reads this book, it will bring you guys back together, because their relationship is not the best lately, even though it's very civil? What Professor Ahwoi said was, he is very sure that if Rawlings reads this book, it will bring them back together. But then his fear is that he may not read the book and might feed on the critics who are spewing falsehoods about the content of the book. But I should just extend my confidence in His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings and Professor Ahwoi, that these people are people who have made Ghana, or who have contributed in making Ghana into what Ghana is today. They are not kids. Their level of intelligence should be respected. And I think they can handle things in their own way. Some of us shouldn't. That is why I said, if you are an intellectual or you are an elite and you have the opportunity to read, without reading, you hear one or two statements and then you want to conclude because of probably the political party that you are affiliated to. You are just in a rush to feed on negative news. It is very pathetic. This book highlights the great men of this country, what they went through, their ups and downs, and the events that happened. So I totally disagree with that.
I apologize.
You have to take that. I hear, that's fine.
On this whole founders business thing, I'm going to be exceedingly brief. You understand? You know, when the Black Star plays an international match, the Black Star plays for Ghana. Ghana sponsors the Black Star, which means that the taxes that Kaya pay goes into feeding the Black Stars, their training, paying the coach, and so on. Cocoa farmers are part of it. Even the crowds who cheer them are part of it. Every one of us, 30 million people, contribute to the success of the Black Star in any international match. But the Black Star itself is made up of 11 players, and all of them contribute to the victory of the Black Star. Now here is the Black Star in a football match, and they win by 1-0. Of course, the goalkeeper catches the ball, throws it to one player passes it to the other, and so on. Eventually, the ball gets to Asamoah Gyan, and Asamoah Gyan kicks the ball into the goalpost. Goal. Then we said that Asamoah Gyan scored the goal. We said, no. How can Asamoah Gyan alone score the goal? Go to the Kayaye, whose taxes also contributed to scoring the goal. Add the cocoa farmer, whose taxes also contributed to scoring the goal. And add all those who cheer the Black Stars on. What ridiculous situation is that? The fact is, Asamoah Gyan scored the goal. Asamoah Gyan had support. Many things led to him being on the field to score the goal. Somebody bought the boots for him and so on. But he scored the goal. In this game, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah scored the goal. And you can't do anything about it. You can cry, you can weep, whatever you do, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah scored the goal. Finish. No argument.
That is his view.
That's your version of history.
That is
no, it's okay. That's your version of history.
I'll give you 3 minutes of his time.
In any case, your interjection is going to make me go into many other things.
Oh, please do.
No, we don't have to.
I don't have to.
Listen. Why? J.B. Dankwa, his own hometown election, rejected him.
He didn't win election there.
How can a man whose own hometown rejected him now become the founder of the nation when even his hometown was not with him? Nobody. He never.
Please. Please.
The man never won an election. Go and read our history proper. Only last night, I was reading the Achim Digest. Go and read J.B. Dankwa's article in Achim Digest, in which he's arguing that Ghana should not be called Ghana, but should be called Akan land. Akan, A-K-A-N, Akan land. Go and read it. J.P. Dankwa, that was his view, that Ghana should be called Akan land.
But was he the same person who proposed Ghana?
That is also a falsehood.
That's a falsehood.
It's a falsehood.
That's a falsehood.
It's a falsehood.
Revisionist.
It's a falsehood.
Please.
Master, I gave you 3 minutes of my time. I want to take the rest.
I agree, sir. Go ahead.
That's a falsehood. And then you make reference to the 48 routes. Go and read the Gold Coast Digest. You people, perhaps you are not reading well.
Not reading.
Gold Coast Digest. There were 6 people who were blamed by the colonial administration for the routes. 5 of them denied involvement and blamed it all on Nkrumah and said Nkrumah was the only person who was behind the 1948 route. How can there be a big 6? There's only one big one. One. Kede, Guda. One big one. Finish. Stop distorting history.
But all denied it. I don't know whether you have not come across it.
I'm aware.
Alhaji, please.
That's a revisionist exercise, and senior, you don't
No,
have
because
to get
please.
into this.
Please, let him talk.
I heard you say that.
Let him talk. Let him finish on it.
Maybe indulge us. Maybe we should buy more time
I
and
beg
discuss
you.
it.
Master, I beg you. Why? President Nana Akufo-Addo's father sat in judgment over Obeche Bilamte when Obeche Bilamte was being tried for bomb throwing and so on. President Akufo-Addo's father sat in judgment with Justice Van Leer and Justice Akukosa. What was their verdict? Their verdict was that Obeche Bilamte was a terrorist. That's the word they use, terrorist. Today you come and sit here and you are telling me that we should make a terrorist the founder of Ghana. And I didn't declare him a terrorist. Akufo-Addo's father declared him a terrorist. And you argue that we should make a terrorist the founder of Ghana. What logic is that? Anyway, let's put that aside and move on. I wish we had about
No,
that time will come.
That time will come.
In any case, that Founders Day which was celebrated on Tuesday is not my Founders Day.
Yeah.
And it is not the Founders Day of many people. We will celebrate our Founders Day on September 21st.
Yes.
And we shall see that celebration and compare it with your celebration. And we shall see who is the true founder of Ghana on 21st of September. Master, Richard, I must thank you for your honesty. That's one thing nobody can take away from you. You made it clear that in discussing this book, you are referencing a reaction from Dan Agbodapi. That's honest. Because there's so many people who are talking about this book who haven't read it. I was struggling to get a copy. It was only yesterday that my good friend Kwame Sefakan gave me a copy. And I could only get a copy from Kwame Sefakan. I couldn't even get a copy from my NDC friends.
You didn't ask me.
Should I ask you before?
You should have asked me too.
So I started reading this book yesterday. And the first part of the book I read was the foreword. Because the foreword has become a whipping stick against Professor Nana J. Ajimai. So I decided to read it. Now listen, I'm going to read only 3 paragraphs of the foreword. It's a very short foreword. This one and half the next page. Very short. 3/4 the next page. Listen to Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, what she wrote. It says, maybe the intention of working with Rollins is to answer the simple question which many want to ask. What was it like? That is, working with a man who excites extreme emotions and whose life and actions have impacted our country so much. It could be a complex question, but it is also one the author answers in an accessible but thought-provoking way. Next paragraph. In the process of narrating what it was like, the text spans the decades of the author's close, exciting, and revealing encounters with Jerry John Rawlings in all his complexity. And she's describing Jerry Rawlings. Nana is describing Jerry Rawlings. A person tightly focused on his conviction. Humane. A family man with a heart that beats and sometimes bleeds. The book as well displays the author's own moments of elation, bewilderment, resolve, and downright confusion, if not regret, at various events. The nation itself, a changing landscape affected by various elements, is filtered through the evolving relationship between the author and his subject. And then the last paragraph. The last paragraph is most interesting. Part of the strength of working with Rawlings may be located within the crevices of a growing body of questions for the protagonist, the author, but I dare say that, as good books do, this book would invite readers to unearth some questions for themselves as well. First and foremost, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman never at any point in this forward endorsed the views expressed by Professor Kwame Ahwoi. She never did. She never endorsed the views.
Propaganda.
She just stated that this book will become controversial, which it has become. She says that this book will raise many questions about the author himself and the subject. Is that not what is happening here?
That is exactly what
Indeed, if you read the foreword, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has become a prophet.
Yeah.
Because everything she wrote in this foreword has come to pass. Her description of Jerry John Rawlings is amazing. If that is not complimentary, what can be complimentary? In fact, I disagree with her. She's too complimentary to Rawlings. I totally disagree with her. And I totally disagree with these two panelists for their portrayal of Rawlings. But the truth, if you read the book, is that that is Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman's portrayal of Rawlings. So the propaganda must end somewhere. Yeah. Look, I believe honestly, that Professor Kwame Ahwoi's judgment was problematic.
Yeah.
I would not launch such a book 4 months to a crucial election like this. I think that there was a problem of judgment. You understand? I am happy that some of the things that we knew which were denied have been confirmed by this book. Some of the things that we knew that Rawlings was not in charge of economic policy. We have always known that. We have always known his limitations. All those have been confirmed by this book. But who would deny that Rawlings was not in charge of economic policy? And that he did not understand the intricacies of economic policy and so on. It's knowledge all of us have. You have it. Everybody has it. You know, this attempt to insult the people of the Volta region should be discouraged. You know how we insult the people of the Volta region? We insult the people of the Volta region by claiming that they don't know their destiny. They don't know themselves. And that they have supported the government because of one person. That's an insult. Hold on. Please, can I finish? Please, can I finish? Please, can I finish?
You cannot put them factor on everyone.
Kwame Nkrumah did not come from the Volta region. Kwame Nkrumah is not from the Volta region. Yes. The Volta region stood by Kwame Nkrumah through thick and thin. Yeah. Check the history. Check the electoral records.
Thick and thin.
Thick and thin. The Volta region was with Kwame Nkrumah. He was not an Ewe. He didn't come from the region.
He didn't speak it even.
Oh, please. Why? The Volta region, in the 1969 election, when the CPP was banned, the Volta region voted massively en bloc for the National Alliance of Liberals. The Volta region voted for NDC, has voted for NDC throughout. There must be a reason other than Rawlings.
PMP.
Masa. So it is not true that the Volta region votes for a party because of Rawlings. Rawlings was not part of the CPP. Rawlings was not part of the National Alliance of Liberals. Rawlings. So it is not true. The people of the Volta region, they know themselves. They know their own aspirations. They know their needs.
No, you cannot superimpose that on that.
Don't treat the people of the Volta region as if they are herds of cattle.
Yeah.
They are not herds of cattle.
Well,
they are human beings.
Well, see, there's a factual basis we are not aware of, please.
I mean, if you go
and
you refer to them as inward-looking people, you expect them to vote for you.
But you know, Victor Usu won.
And it is interesting.
Won in Agbo, so please, let's not even get to that.
It is interesting that Richard himself admits that the UP tradition included Tolimo. You know what Tolimo represented? Tolimo was a secessionist movement in the Volta region. A small minority of people who wanted to secede. They were led by S.G. Anto. That is why we are unpopular in the Volta region, because you don't support popular causes. Indeed, when Buzia became prime minister, Buzia made the secessionist leader in the Volta region the ambassador to Togo, S.G. Anto. Go and check the history. Go and check the history. That is why we are unpopular in the Volta region. It is not because of Rollins. Now Rollins is going to go and win the Volta region. Let's see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Go and win the Volta region. Let's see.
That's why you are bent on all this propaganda. Exciting.
We are not NBC.
No, I'm not saying you.
Just a few messages before.
But you are aiming that course.
Michael, that's the MPP man on the program. What the videos we're seeing from the South Conference.
No, it's not about advocate. I heard what he said.
He says, that's Ahiyangba, where is the catapult he's talking about? That signboard on the land and appointing and paying a director monthly without any port in existence. That's from Michael Flynn Kofoidwa. Angelo Kojofi says, we're told as ever that we don't have any natural resources and we are therefore a burden to Ghana. We perfectly agree with them. And we say we want to go. I don't see that special thing that we should continue to die for as Ghanaians. We want to go. Angelo. And then... And then Kojochu Mbafo says, Sena, it will appear that on today's Alhaji and Alhaji, you chose to bring only one Ghanaian. Per nomenclature that the practitioners of the Dankwa Busia who have us believe, only Kwesi Pratt has an authentic Ghanaian surname. Or does he? I think Pratt is an aristocrat British name. Sena, do you see how absurd it is when we profile citizenship based on people's last names? Preach on Most Reverend Bishop Pratt. And that's coming from Kojochu Mbafo. Well, that does it for the show for today. I apologize, I haven't read a lot of messages. I wish I could read more. Even the ones that we shared though to talk about, we're not able to finish everything. My name is Sena Nombo. You heard Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. I was managing editor of the Inside newspaper. Alhaji Inusa Husseini is member of parliament for Tamale Central. Jifa Tegan joined us today, member of the NDC communication team, and Richard Ahiyangba is the executive director of Dankwa Institute. Yes, I think so. I think so. A big thank you to our partners, Ahunto Radio here in Accra. A big thank you to the radio stations across the region which tune in to us. I understood we're live on Volta, and there are those who are challenging my claim. And so I'd have to confirm that because that was the indication that was given to me. A big thank you to my viewers on Facebook. We are back same time next week. Have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful week.
And the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians.